FedEx guy's driving the wrong way down the street. Oh my goodness. Um, I've been threatening, mostly myself, to restart the podcast. Oh my gosh. And so I started putting it together. Sometimes you just have to press record. I find myself oftentimes trying to prep too much, and you just have to go with the flow sometimes. So this is August 28th, 2022, officially episode 12 of the Pondering Infinity podcast. Lots changed since my last one on February 24th, and I wanted to go over some high-level changes. As you can see, I have new digs, and I need to turn my lights on. May sound like I'm recording in a wind tunnel. I had to move out to the garage, and it gets warm out here, especially with these lights on, so I have to have a fan blowing. So I apologize if it does sound like a wind tunnel. But I wanted to start off as I did before, and this will probably be the last time that I do that, with financials. So I wanted to go over, put up a graphic. So this was Friday. I got these prices in preparation. Bitcoin was at 20,695.86. XRP was at 33 cents. XLM Friday was at 10.57 cents. Doge was at 6.53 cents. The Dow was 32,406.19. The Nasdaq was 12,278. S&P is 4075.4. Crude oil was 93.12. Gold was 1749.60, and silver was at 1877. I want to just take a second to contrast these numbers contrast them with February 24th, when I did my last podcast. So you can see that Bitcoin was at 36,000, is down to 20,000. XRP was at 66 cents and is down to 33. XLM, so on and so forth. So everything is down from February 24th. And I thought it was even more interesting when I did this final graphic and sorted them by percent change. I like looking at data and analyzing numbers, and I thought this was really interesting. So all the quote-unquote assets in the crypto realm, with the exception of silver, were all down in double digits, very remarkably down, and the other assets were only down in single digits. This might be topic of conversation later when I get into the conspiracy theories and science, but I just thought this is interesting to take note of how far these are down, and really silver's not that surprising to me that it's on the chart as well in double digits, but maybe we'll get to that later, or maybe not. It's a topic for another time. But so those are the financials. In the geopolitical, there's so many things that have changed, and the day that I did the 24th, the day that I did the last podcast, I noted in the podcast that I just heard on the radio that Russia invaded Ukraine. And to my knowledge, it's still going on. It's just out of the news, out of the headlines, so it's out of everybody's mind. But inflation was there. Gas prices were crazy. Shortages, the food shortage, the meat processing plants, the baby food shortage, and something that hits home for us is the Jif peanut butter shortage that we ran out. You couldn't find Jif on the shelves anywhere because a couple people got sick and thought that they remembered having Jif. I mean, the story's, it's just crazy how the markets or the economy is controlled, and looking at all of it objectively. But good thing that came out of it. Jif had a website you could go to and say if you were impacted, and you had to throw your Jif peanut butter away. And they finally sent us coupons, so we got 4 coupons valued at up to like $12 each, that you can use anywhere for Jif products. And we shop at Sam's, and Sam's, you can go there and get a twin pack of these huge... Oh, hang on. So Elijah came out and he has to go to work. So I need to take him to work in a minute. But the Jif peanut butter. So we shop at Sam's, and at Sam's you can get a twin pack of Jif, 2 huge jars for like $11.74. So we're going to wind up getting 8 Sam's Club or 4 Sam's Club twin packs of Jif peanut butter because people freaked out irrationally, or the government freaked out irrationally and limited all this, the production of Jif and the baby food and all the stories. So a lot of, just a disclaimer and a warning, a lot of what I'm going to talk about, speak to, I'm just looking at objectively, and it may not sit right with some people, and I actively invite discussion and debate and intellectual honesty that we'll talk about later. I'll get to later with some of the other changes. But on a personal note, of course, I'm in this new studio, if that's what you want to call it, and there's a reason behind that. But so I got a new job. I left my previous employer, Neuroson, working night shift. Hang on. So this time Tyler came out. He's going to take Elijah, so I don't have to take him. We'll get to that too soon. So Tyler's going to take Elijah. So I left my job at the end of June at Neuroson, night shift supervisor. Horrible job. And I started at the end of June. I started working for this other company that I still not sure I'm ready to mention yet, but there's been a lot of positive shooing flies away. a lot of positive changes and positive results in my life. But Angela also had to leave jobs. So back in November, she got injured on the job. She was a hospice nurse. She got injured on the job, and pretty badly, relatively, I guess. Hurt her shoulder, and she's pretty much I don't know why they put things on top of your coffee so flies don't get in. I had a dead fly in my coffee a minute ago. So she had to, she went through workers' comp, and they were dragging their feet, him and hawing. Went to a specialist, recommended this medicine. The workers' comp came back and completely changed what medicine the specialist said. Eventually wound up saying that she would probably have to do exploratory surgery, and then all of a sudden, months after the injury and all this physical therapy that she's gone to, the doctor came back and out of the blue released her for full duty. I said duty. Full duty. 100% duty, and she had to go back to work, and the company that she worked for was just, I mean, they knew she was injured. She couldn't physically perform her job as, you know, she expected to do it, holding herself extremely highly accountable to herself, but she couldn't deliver the level of care up to her standards. And then they just started lumping more duties on and more responsibilities, and not giving her any assistance with physical assistance with sending people out to help her. So we decided to retain an attorney who took the job, and back and forth, and so learned a lot about workers' comp. Two important things that you might want to keep in mind. Workers' comp in the United States is not favorable at all to the worker. Every state, the federal workers' comp laws in every state it's basically a no-fault system where you can't collect punitive, or there's no responsibility. This is what the attorney said, for the employers, and that's how they have this like safety net. But to further compound it, Georgia, where we are, is only one of two states that make it even worse. That your Tyler's leaving with Elijah. Your rights, or your employer, Georgia and Mississippi, your employer is allowed to retaliate against you, in the sense that what they were doing with Angela was throwing more work at her, having to see patients out of her territory, not giving her any help. And they knew how injured she was. They knew that she couldn't perform her job up to her standards, let alone, whatever standards they were trying to meet in the hospice community, and they just did everything to make her job a living hell. And she would, when she was working, when she was able to work all the way up, she continued to do it. She would go see patients, and then she would have to come home and chart, and she may get home at 2 o'clock, and she may have gotten home at 6 o'clock, but she would be charting for hours after she got home, because she felt compelled, accountable to herself, to make the most comprehensive notes, to give the most insight. So when people read her notes, they knew exactly where every one of her patients stood and what she was doing and how she was taking care of them. And, even deeper than that, making personal connections with these people that were dying, were actively dying. Every one of her patients, not a single one of her patients ever had anything negative to say about her, anything bad. They all loved her. They would go out of their way to make sure that she felt comfortable, that she has notes from patients. She has, personal stories from these patients of how she made their family members' last days peaceful, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, all of that. She epitomized, embodied the job of what a hospice worker did. I saw a sticker on the back of a car that said, I work in God's waiting room. I'm a hospice nurse. And I told her about that, and I thought that was so appropriate. But so the 2 states in the country, Georgia and Mississippi, do not have any provisions against companies retaliating against their employees for filing a workers' comp claim. I don't know if I said that right, but it's the deck is stacked against employees, and in Georgia and Mississippi, it's stacked even more heavily. We got the attorney. They went back and forth with workers' comp, and so workers' comp decided to settle. But one of the provisions of settling was that she had to resign immediately from her position. And then the settlement comes when it comes. So Angela's been out of work for, I think, since the beginning of this month. Yeah, it was the beginning of this month. She had to resign immediately. Couldn't even communicate with her former employer. Everything had to go through the lawyer. So the day that she resigned, she's getting texts and emails because her employers knew what kind of worker she was, and for her not to show up for no reason, no call, no email, no text, nothing, is very out of character for her, and it killed her. It was absolutely killing her that she really felt like she was letting down all her patients. But that's just the way that the workers' comp settlement and everything happens. The provisions of the settlement goes down. So as a result of her leaving, in the middle of the month, we had a pay period where she didn't get a paycheck because she wasn't working. And because of that, finances are really tight, and I apparently forgot to pay the power bill. And so they cut off the power one day, and then I had to scramble to get it cut back on. So I mentioned the power bill because I just got a text this morning that said, from Georgia Power, that says your power bill is due in a couple of days, and it's $913. And I just freaked out because we were on the budget plan where it should only be like $300. They averaged it out throughout the years, and I was freaking out. So $900. I'm thinking, oh my God, what the heck happened? Did it take me off the budget plan because I forgot to pay the power bill? So I logged in. It actually didn't. So I don't know. Their text message system is messed up, but it's the right price. So that's no big deal. But just some of these changes that caused it's a snowball effect, a ripple effect. And one of those changes, well, there's a lot of changes, but another change was that Tyler and Jess, my son and daughter-in-law, who is pregnant and due in about 2 weeks, 2 weeks or so, moved in with us. So we're in a 4-bedroom house, moved in, and they moved into what was Elijah's room, and what was my studio, they turned into the nursery for the baby. So we moved Elijah downstairs, and once again, I walled in our dining room to turn it into a bedroom like I did when Morgan and her then husband Christian were living with us. They lived in the converted dining room. So I put a wall up, put a bifold door that goes into the kitchen. So that's where Elijah's sleeping. I just turned my fan. And so they took the upstairs and they converted where I was recording, the spare bedroom that I was recording in when I was at Neuroson, converted that into the nursery. So I have been moved out to this glorious new studio, and this is where I'll be broadcasting for the immediate future. But one of the benefits of this, I mean, that's what I'm trying to look at, is all the good that come out of it, is that we've noticed that as it's interesting how as kids grow up, they're the young kids, they want to be around mom and dad, and then they turn into teenagers, and every one of them has their problems. We always say Tyler's the pancake child, because things that Ethan and Elijah get away with, he would never have gotten away with, and he's not wrong, but it's like we've mellowed and we've changed, and but so Ethan's 17 and Elijah's 14. Everybody's doing their own thing, and so we like to play games, dominoes, ConspiracyTheoryopoly. Jess is a collector of Monopoly boards. So when I was coming up with this idea of ConspiracyTheoryopoly, we played that, and so we like playing dominoes and Uno and Phase 10 and all this other stuff. Just spending time. So Tyler and Jess are, Tyler's at the age now where he appreciates, sort of, I would suspect, enjoys spending time with his family again, and appreciates that time. And now that he's going to be a father, we keep telling him, there's a stark realization coming up, and it's your turn, and grandchildren are payback or whatever it is. So we have the added benefit of being very present in Jarrett's life, and I don't know, we'll see how that works out for Tyler and Jess. Angela came out, and I had to go in, and she had to ask me something. But the FedEx driver, so she brought the box in, and I asked, well, what's in the box? Because I thought we ordered it, and it was addressed to somebody that doesn't even live on our street. It's not even close. I mean, this is a couple streets away. Not even close to our address. And she said she messaged this person and said that your package was delivered here, but it was already open. On the bottom, it looked like it had been opened multiple times. It's from Walmart, and it's got like toilet paper and other stuff in it. So I'm like, so the FedEx guy drops it off at the wrong location, wrong house, driving down the wrong side of the street. It's not even close. I don't know how you could get to that, but oh my gosh. So see how it works out for Tyler and Jess. But one of the couple of interesting things I think they're interesting. I think they're funny. But a couple of things. So we were playing. We're playing a game. I think we're playing dominoes, and Tyler says, or somebody says, "Hey, let's put on some music." So Angela grabs her phone, and she starts with her playlist, and it's very, very eclectic, and but Crazy Bitch comes on from Buckcherry, and Tyler starts getting obviously uncomfortable. If you've never heard the song, listen to it, but it's probably not one that you want to sit down and listen with your parents present. So he's obviously very uncomfortable, and then he says something like, anything but this song, and then Angela starts singing along at probably the most inappropriate times, and his face just went. It reminded me of, on the Tik Tok, that emotional damage, and I just I wish I would have recorded it. I keep saying that we need to put cameras and microphones in the house, because just the other day at work, on a call, they were saying that you can't make this stuff up. Like, reality's stranger than fiction, and you can't make this up. But it's so true when you just think about, at least when I think about my life, like some weird things, and it's funny at the time, but I think it'd be funny to a third party observer. So that was the emotional damage one. But along the lines of the last couple of months, we were doing something, and Jess has, as many people do probably, has a very unique dynamic in her family. It's starkly contrast. I sometimes look at it like my family versus growing up versus Angela's family growing up, and I always used to use the analogy of my big fat Greek wedding, where they were the portcullises, lots of family and friends and everybody getting together and having a good old time, and nothing against my upbringing, but we were the Millers, Elon Miller, and just very different dynamics. Very, my adopted parents were, they were great, but very different growing up, and I saw that. I didn't make that connection until much later in life, but Jess has a very unique dynamic, and I thought it was funny I thought it would be funny, a funny thought experiment, to turn her life into a dramedy, like, something like The Goldbergs or How I Met Your Mother. So I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun to cast our dramedy and see who we think would play who. And I thought I had it. Yeah, this is what happens when you don't prepare. I had to go find it. So I thought it would be interesting. So we just started casting each other, who we thought would play people, and it was everybody. It was, Jess and Tyler, obviously, and us and her extended family, and eventually our extended family. So we were going through, and right away Jess cast Melissa McCarthy. So you'll see, this would be a very, very, very high budget dramedy if we got these people, but it makes sense to me coming up. So Melissa McCarthy, Tyler was Seth Rogan, and Angela we cast as Katie Segal, and then Elijah and Morgan and Ethan, but by far most of them had one or two people that immediately jumped to mind. Ethan, we had talked about him being Channing Tatum, and Elijah being Jonah Hill, and because they go to high school together, and it'd be funny if they recreated 21 Jump Street humor. But by far I don't know if it was most difficult or least difficult to cast are the people for me. So I immediately, of course, went to the Batman. Where's that thing? The Batman, Michael Keaton. Everybody shot that down, but we came up with a couple others they thought that could play me, based on. We tried not to do it with personality, or what actor could do that, not necessarily looks. So Elijah, was happy when they said Tom Holland, but he doesn't look like Tom Holland. So I was Michael Keaton, and then Ed Helms, Ryan Reynolds, and Hugh Jackman. Those are pretty cool. Then they throw out Jeremy Renner, Ed O'Neill, and Jason Bateman, but finally we landed on, again, I'm pleased with Bryan Cranston. So I will be played by Bryan Cranston. So the humor in my mind comes when things play out in real life, and then I put them into the context of their actors in these scenes. So anytime Tyler and Jess are talking and Tyler says something goofy or funny, I imagine Seth Rogen saying that. And some of the stuff is just crazy funny. But so Bryan Cranston, and so with the emotional damage, I thought, Seth Rogen listening to that with Katie Segal singing "Crazy Bitch," and it's just hilarious in my mind. So as we're going through playing games and just talking, and I'm always envisioning the characters saying these words. So one night, I think it was Wednesday night, Tyler and Jess came in the living room, and we were sitting there talking, and we started watching, Angela and I started watching Prison Break. I don't watch much television, but we started watching Prison Break, and one of the, I don't mean any spoiler alerts, so if you haven't seen it, and you want to see it, I don't know if I'm going to spoil anything, but I don't care. It's just so implausible, all the stuff that's going on in Prison Break, and at the end of the first season, they break out of prison. So, and I know there's multiple seasons, but I just kept thinking, how do you have a show titled Prison Break and you break out in the first season and the show keeps going? I understand that, and it's oddly compelling how you have to suspend your disbelief just when you want to be entertained, and so I'm doing that. But we're going to watch Prison Break, and Tyler and Jess came in and sat down, and so we had Hulu pulled up on the screen, on the TV, on the big screen. We had Hulu pulled up on the TV, just on the welcome page. And Tyler says, you want to hear something funny? And I immediately thinking, okay, Seth Rogan saying this and Melissa McCarthy. And so Tyler says, Jess thought Richard Simmons was in Kiss. And I grew up with Richard Simmons, and I have memories of him, how flamboyant he was, and sweating to the oldies and doing all this other stuff. Stereotype, admittedly, and judgmental, which I'm trying to be less. But I had immediately, in my mind, thought, well, that would be hilarious if Richard Simmons, knowing what I remember him, how I remember him as playing in Kiss, and Gene Simmons and his so I keep having to pause because things keep going down. So Angela just called me in because she can't, with her injury, she can't even pull the laundry out of the dryer. Like, her shoulder is injured so much she can't, so I have to go in and pull the laundry out of the dryer. And she, for her new job, she has to order some new scrubs because they require a certain color. So she's asking, like last time she ordered scrubs, last year, summer of last year, it took months to get here. And so she's afraid that she needs to Amazon's here. So Amazon shows up. I know I'm all over the place, and I apologize, but nobody's listening anyway, so this is just for me. So Amazon showed up with a little package, a little tiny package. It was addressed to Angela, so I walked in and I said, well, that was fast. You didn't even order the scrubs, and Amazon's already tracking what you're searching for, somehow paying for it and shipping it to you. All you have to do is think about it. But it turns out, she said, oh, it's probably Morgan's baby shower gift. And I said, what are you talking about? Morgan's having a baby shower? And she said, oh, no, it's for our nephew, and he's having a baby, and had it sent here. So they used to have a commercial. I don't know if it was a power company, or I don't know if it was Georgia Power. They said they anticipate problems, and like they send out repair people before there's even a problem. Like, think of Minority Report and like the precogs. And this is how my mind works. It's just really Some people say messed up, but so I just thought it was funny that as we're talking about Amazon, they just show up. So we're talking about Richard Simmons and how, you know, he wasn't in KISS, and Gene Simmons, and I, you know, just started to make those connections and just started chuckling in my head. And just as there's no coincidences, just as we started talking about that, up on the Hulu screen, Tyler said, I don't know why I was thinking about Richard Simmons. And up on the Hulu screen, TMZ had just released a documentary about what really happened to Richard Simmons. And he looked up there and he said, oh yeah, they just released that. And I looked at Angela and I said, she said, I thought he died. And I said, I did too. I don't know what happened, but I have to watch that. So we watched it, and so we stopped. I don't know. Tyler and Jess went back upstairs, and Angela and I had to watch. We didn't have to, but I wanted to. So we watched the Richard Simmons documentary, and in true TMZ fashion, they spent 45 minutes sensationalizing, or production value, or whatever it is, for information that could have been done in 15 minutes. But it's Hulu and they're doing this thing, so it was very interesting. If you don't know what happened to Richard Simmons, very interesting documentary. But in a nutshell, basically he made hundreds of millions of dollars, and he was flamboyant, and but it led to, he cared so much about people that he just couldn't take it anymore, and he would take it so personally, and he was such an introvert in real life, but this persona that he put on, and he, the documentary said he would stay hours after shows and appearances talking to people and loving on people and sharing encouragement and doing all these things. And just, I think it was February 15th 2014, he just decided he's done. He is out. He is no longer coming to the public, and he hasn't been, a couple times he's been heard of or seen, but the big point of the documentary was that he just couldn't take it anymore. So they went through telling all his stories and how he made so much money and all the theories behind what happened to him, and he's being held hostage, and it really came down to the point he was just emotionally and mentally burned out, and he couldn't take it anymore. And so I got to thinking what I knew about Richard Simmons and everything that I thought I knew about him and his persona and bigger than life and all the stuff that he stood for. I don't know what his sexual persuasion was. All that's irrelevant. He's a beautiful, wonderful human being, and all the things. So it got me thinking: when did Caitlyn Jenner come out? And nothing against Bruce Jenner, but so Caitlyn Jenner came out in June 2015, and all this time, the 8 years that's elapsed since that, and how society has gone, and how what we put at the forefront of social issues, and not, I have my opinions and everybody's got their opinions, but it just, the thought experiment in and of itself, between Richard Simmons and Caitlyn Jenner, I thought, how different would the world be today if Richard Simmons was still in the public eye? And I just wrote down a whole list of things that he overtly stood for, or stood against. And the documentary goes like, he was overweight as a child, and he had health issues, and he had personal issues, and so just some of the things that got me thinking about how different we would be today if he were the role model, or he were in the spotlight, instead of contrasting that with Caitlyn Jenner and the Kardashians. And so bullying, how different would we look at bullying, or the transgender communities, the LGBTQ, health and personal fitness and eating right, mental health issues, child obesity, elder issues, depression, pharmaceuticals, addiction, even to the point he was very religious and he prayed, how the religion would have changed in today's, watching a lot of Tyler's coming through and getting dog food. So that was the other thing. So we're living in a house with 4 bedrooms, 6 people, soon to be 7, and then 8 animals, 3 dogs. Is it 3 dogs? Yeah, 3 dogs, 4 cats, and a turtle. Crazy. But he went to get dog food for his dog. So Richard Simmons, how different everything would be. So I've been watching over the last couple of months. I've been watching and Tik Tok, and trying to be more productive, and there's a whole lot of stuff going on, trying to be more positive in leadership. And so there's one TikTok woman, JasminesGarden, wanted to play a couple of videos, but she's really good influencer. I really like her. But she has a theory, and it's a prevailing theory, but why, how TikTok and the 7-second dopamine rush generation is affecting the behaviors of children, and it's pervasive. I mean, the thoughts, or the theories are all over the internet. Maybe we'll get to some of them later. But how different would it have been if Richard Simmons was still in the spotlight? So one of the theories about Richard Simmons, he wanted to go out at the high point of his career, and now I think he's like 75 now, and he had a knee injury, and now it's, he didn't want to be seen as, this fitness guru or this encourager, and now as this, frail older person. But I think even now, I think it would have been, if he comes out now. So I saw a Facebook post today. Again, lack of preparation. I saw this. So as I was looking for the documentary, I wanted to find another clip of 21 Jump Street, so going back to when we were watching the Hulu thing, the sometime between when we watched the Richard Simmons, or when we talked about, sometime that day, the Hulu went off, and the channel happened to be on a episode, I don't know what channel it was, of 21 Jump Street, like from the 90s. And so there was this one, it was the exact the exact time that the TV went off and this episode started playing was this scene. And I'm going to try to pull it up. Chrome browser. I'll play this scene.
Don't worry. You have plenty of time.
Be sure to call my friends if you need a place to stay.
Thank you. My cousin says that he has plenty of room for me until I can find a place of my own.
Well, when you get settled in, let us know how to get a hold of you.
As soon as I can afford a new fax machine, you'll be the first people outside of China that I contact.
Give me a minute. You sure you want to do this?
Once I get settled, I can continue the struggle. Then I'll be okay.
I want to tell you something, and I don't want you to take it the wrong way. All right?
Sure.
It might be a long time before you can go home. And America's a great place to be. But only if you let yourself be here. I mean, if your head is somewhere else, it can be real lonely.
Are you saying I should forget about my country?
I'm just saying that you may have to adjust. It might turn out that, well, that this becomes your country. And if you learn to accept it...
I appreciate your concern. But China will always be my country. Wherever I may be, my heart will be there.
I know you feel that way now, but...
I will always feel that way. In this country, everybody bends with the wind. I do not.
Everybody bends with the wind. I do not. So hang on. Angela just came out. I gotta check something. So this is all over left field. So since Angela's been out of work, she's taken up crafts, and so I've taken up crafts. Not like I'm unfamiliar with crafts, but I've done, the tumblers. I did the fabric. I did all this other stuff. But so she's taking up crafts, and she got as a gift an incense burner that's a wine bottle turned upside down and glitter, and it's got gnomes on it. So she's making wine bottle decorations for Halloween, and for the fall. And now she's just came out and asked if I had painter's tape, so I had to go find that. And she's bringing out a bunch of wine bottles that she needs the labels taken off of, so she can make her crafts. So she's bringing these wine bottles out. A what? A pequeño bottle? Is that a tequila? What is that?
So this is going to be
Santa gnome. Okay. Oh, we're making Christmas gnomes representing each one of us. So Bryan Cranston is the from the thing, the cast. Go ahead. You need a little tiny bottle, so you have enough for everybody, but you need one for Jarrett. So you need like a little, like a pint of liquor, or one of those little airline bottles.
Well, I don't want to go that little, because then that'd be really hard to make them, but it needs to be significantly smaller.
Well, maybe they have smaller wine bottles, I guess. Yeah, oh yeah, those like Sutter Home little things.
Yeah, that'd probably be pretty good to start with.
So you'd have to... Maybe they... Well, I don't know.
Oh, no, make his cat colors.
Yeah. Oh, so that's the latest craft project. She's making wine bottles into gnomes representing everybody in the family. It's kind of a close... So she needs one for Jarrett, so she needs a little tiny bottle, so the Sutter Home bottles. But, so she's taking up crafts, so I'm taking up crafts. And it's all over the place. I apologize, but it's just for me, so I don't care. So that video clip, in conjunction with, the other TikTokers, how things have changed, and how, the first world problems of America, and how we're all so, how everything's changed. So with Richard Simmons, going back to Richard Simmons, all the things that I thought may be different now. And so that was that video, that episode of 21 Jump Street was playing at the exact moment, at that exact segment in the video, or in the TV show, where all these things. It must have been after I watched Rich. I don't know when it was, but it just got me thinking, like, how true of a statement that is, that everybody in this country bends to what's popular. They don't hold. They're not intellectually honest with themselves, and they don't. They're not grounded. We lost some sort of grounding. And I guess I'll eventually segue into I guess the next. It got me thinking that over the last couple of months, a lot has changed. For me personally, listening to music, and some of the stuff I was talking about back in February, where Elon Musk was saying that the biggest. So I paused it to go back and I guess do some more preparations, get some more clips. So I was talking about a couple of months ago, how Elon was saying the largest existential threat to humanity is AI, the machines taking over. And my contention was that was only partially correct. I felt that the machines weren't going to take over just by listening to all the scientists, and with Lex Fridman's podcast, and how far we actually are with technology and AI and computer learning, contrasting that to the time I spent deep down the rabbit holes, and all the things that all these conspiracy theories were suggesting were so much closer to quantum computing. Where listening to Lex Fridman, I had listened to one, they were talking about quantum computing, and the next step for quantum computing is formulating, re-engineering the way that fertilizer is made, and using the quantum computers to make fertilizer more efficiently, I guess, versus a lot of the conspiracy theories were saying quantum computing this, and we're so far ahead, and all the conspiracy theories. So I had gone along this path where I thought the biggest threat to existentially to humanity was AI would take away free will and subvert free will, and a lot of reasons that I had thought that, but it got me down the road thinking musically. So one of the paths that I went, I listened to a lot of Skillet, and Skillet is a Christian rock band that's I really like them. They got some really good music, but I was listening to Skillet Radio, and on Skillet Radio, all of a sudden they started playing Theory of a Dead Man and Bad Girlfriend, and it made me wonder how the algorithms were actually working in Spotify, because if you listen to Skillet, it's the same type of beats and, you know, rock rhythms and things like that, but then Theory of a Dead Man, so it's along the same lines, but there's no way that the algorithm would ever put, based on lyrics, would ever put Skillet in the same playlist as Theory of a Dead Man. So I just kept listening. I had some screenshots of some of the songs that came up, but I couldn't find them on my phone. They're somewhere else. But I remember the first song that came up from Hollywood Undead, and it got me listening to Hollywood Undead and developing a theory that music can never be replicated by AI. AI could put pleasant sounds together, but music is more than just pleasant sounds. Music is based on the artist's life experiences and their daily struggles, and so it started listening to more Hollywood Undead, and it eventually led me to Tom MacDonald. And Tom MacDonald, independent rap, I don't know what, truth rap, I don't know, I've dubbed it sovereign rap, speaking, you know, just getting people to think more critically about everything. So one of the things I was I've been thinking about, is a Tom MacDonald challenge. Listen to any one of his songs, even some of them with, like, Adam Calhoun, you know, even Jelly Roll is in there, and they've got some, but listen to any one of his songs and make an argument against what he's saying, not an emotional argument, but a logical argument with what he's saying. So I would often ask people at work, or, you know, I guess mostly people at work, about to think of these songs. So there was one colleague at work, a salesperson, that I'm not going to mention his name, but I gave him a couple of songs to listen to, and, you know, that I thought were very insightful and enlightening, just to think about. So he took them home one weekend and he played them. So I asked him when he came back in, and as much as I liked the lyrics and the songs and listened to it, he said he hated them. So I asked him why he felt that way. It wasn't the lyrics, and he said, well, when he listens to music, he wants to be entertained. He doesn't want to he didn't say it in those words, but he said he hated them because they sounded angry, and they sounded you know, just like not things he wanted to listen to. He didn't want to think about the lyrics. He wanted to be entertained. And it worked towards a theory that most people listen to music, and they for entertainment purposes. So what I did was take one song from Tom MacDonald and wrote out the lyrics and printed them out and read him the lyrics. And he had a whole different perspective on it, because he thought that now it's no longer music to be entertained by, it's, you know, for lack of a better term, a speech. I told him that I wrote it out over the weekend, but I just copied the lyrics. And I read them to him, and he said, wow, that's, you know, really, really good. I said, yeah, he said, well, if you didn't tell me that was a song, I was going to go home and write a song to it. But it was Tom MacDonald's. I think it was The System from Tom MacDonald. So I challenged people to listen to any of the lyrics and make an argument why these things, why these are controversial, these opinions. And going back to the Prison Break that we're watching, Angela and I, we really have to be entertained. We're sacrificing our beliefs, a small portion of it. We have to suspend disbelief, just like when you watch a movie, The Avengers, right? You have to suspend your disbelief that this can't really be happening. This isn't real, for the sake of entertainment. But if you listen to the lyrics and actually listen and not just hear the music and listen to the lyrics, a lot of the music that they're calling independent rap or truth rap or whatever they're saying is dealing with social issues on a bigger scale that are incontrovertible if you break it down at the base level. And there's not a single topic that Tom MacDonald raps about that should be controversial if you get right down one of the Elon's things that he's noted for is first principles thinking. And again, these are just my opinions, and I welcome and invite healthy debate and discussion about it. But so I have a couple of clips. One of them, I guess, goes back to Jasmine's Garden is the name of the woman that talked about why TikTok is so popular. I want to play that video of hers. Let's see. Set the stage for what's going on.
I'm going to say something kind of controversial, and I already know y'all are going to be like, that's a reach, because the possibility of me being right makes your cognitive dissonance attack to critical thinking. But I don't think they're pushing 7-second videos through the algorithm because it's trendy. I think they're pushing 7-second videos through the algorithm because they're trying to reprogram our minds to have a shorter attention span. And y'all are going to be like, Jasmine, why would they want to limit the mental capacity required to be able to focus long enough for something to challenge our thinking? Well, I'm sure they're aware that you can't change the world in 7 seconds. Especially if you can't get somebody to listen longer than 7 seconds. But you know what they're also aware of? That if somebody can get a hit of endorphins every 7 seconds, they become dependent on the stimulant. The more dependent you are on the stimulant raises the likelihood of you entertaining content that immediately feeds that fix. Pushing content that requires at least 2 brain cells for you to rub together to be able to comprehend to the bottom of the barrel. Because social injustice doesn't make you feel good. Inequality makes you sad. But that 7-second fever dream that didn't make any sense made you giggle.
She's got a lot of really good, insightful videos that if you listen to them, should hopefully get you thinking more critically, and that's what I'm really trying to do. I just looked down. This has been going an hour and 8 minutes, but I'm not editing, and I really should break these topics up, but maybe I will later on. So I realize I'm all over the place. But hopefully you're sticking with me. And then, so, saw some other videos. I want to play one. So, Tom MacDonald holds the government and in contempt and the system, and it goes along with one of the beliefs that I had. It's not black versus white. It's not gay versus straight. It's the sovereign humans against the elite. And I'm eventually going to get into how the elite is also including, back in February in the previous videos, my disdain for level 0 scientists who aren't contributing anything. And So one of the videos a clip I wanted to play is Rand Paul actually talking about the government.
Do you know who the greatest propagator of disinformation in the history of the world is? The U.S. government. Are you familiar with McNamara, the Pentagon Papers? Are you familiar with George W. Bush and the weapons of mass destruction? Are you familiar with Iran-Contra? I mean, think of all the debates and disputes we've had over the last 50 years in our country. We work them out by debating them. We don't work them out by the government being the arbiter. I don't want you guardrails. I want you to have nothing to do with speech. You think we can't determine, speech by traffickers is disinformation? You think the American people are so stupid they need you to tell them what the truth is? You can't even admit what the truth is with the Steele dossier. I don't trust government to figure out what the truth is. Government is largely disseminating disinformation.
So that's basically the premise that Tom MacDonald has underpinned Tom MacDonald's music for however long. I really like Tom MacDonald, as you can tell. But Rand Paul sums it up, and it really is, in my opinion, the sovereigns against the elites. So in another video, and again, I'm all over the place. I keep saying that, but this is really for me. So I got another video of, again, Jasmine's Garden, and her talking about the system. And Tom MacDonald talks about the system. This is an interesting little TikTok video.
The system is not broken. The system is not rigged. The system did not fail us again. The system is flawless. It is selected for the sake of show and entertainment. They decide who dies and whose death means something to the public eye for the sake of division. Then they'll spare somebody from a fate that wasn't even theirs because they are innocent, just to create a slither of hope so they can maintain control. But we didn't read the fine print. He has life without parole. The system is perfect, because society expects justice to be delivered from the same hands that orchestrate chaos. The system is meticulous, because society becomes more and more aware that the system is against it, but they still look to the system to say that the system is working. Because society believes only the government can decide when something is constitutional, like the Constitution didn't start with we the people. So last time I checked, that makes us part government. The system is intact, because they know you're scared, so you're just going to sit back. The system is winning, because you believe you have something to lose and you've already lost.
I love this stuff. If you really think about it and allow yourself to come out of the 7-second clips and think deeply how the world is so interconnected. One of my favorite Lex Fridman interviews was Manolis Kellis. I think he did 4 already. But one of them, he says, humans are 99.99% alike, and so unique and so different in so many aspects that it really comes down to being honest with yourself and looking at the world honestly and taking accountability personally for what's going on in your life and in the world. One more clip from Jasmine. Again, it's let's go Biden, or let's go Brandon, but this goes along with it.
I'm gonna say it because y'all scared too. If the presidents get to pretend to run the country, why can't I pretend to follow the law? Because I really don't feel comfortable following laws created by motherfuckers that's just gonna break it when it's convenient for them. And why is it that I saw more of Joe Biden when he was VPing under Obama? Speaking of Obama, Kamala, because I know you only claim your black card on certain days. Have you thought about calling Michelle? I know she was the first lady, but she got more shit done than you. It's been a year since the we did it, Joe. What's been done? I got a call from Sally Mae today asking me when I'm gonna have her money. Bitch, I'm not. You heard Big Daddy Joe say he was going to take care of it. Big Daddy Joe said he going to pay it all. And why am I being held liable for the decisions I made when I was 18? I am no longer the same version of me. That version of me is dead. The debt died with her. I don't know how y'all going to get y'all money from a dead hoe. Just the things we're all thinking about, but I'll say the shit because I think I'll scare you. And what's it? Fuck it.
That goes along with the video that her... I should pull that up. I really like that video. Hang on a second. This is what you get for not planning ahead, but it's kind of interesting. So this is Jasmine. This is one of the earliest videos I watched of hers, and that's what got me hooked on her. But I showed this to Angela and pretty much everybody. Just to get people thinking. But here's Jasmine.
Well, good morning, motherfuckers. Welcome to Jasmine's Garden, because they couldn't get away with this shit in Eden. Today we are going to be learning the power of fuck it, fuck rich, bitch, I'm the shit juice. We're going to call this Affirmations Amplified. We said fuck it because if we have the power to change it, then fuck it. Why are you worried about it? And if we don't have the power to change it, we still have power over how we react to it. So sip and fuck it. We drink fuck 'em because most motherfuckers 2 cents ain't going towards the bill anyways. And I'll be damned if I have a motherfucker living rent free in my mind when rent is expensive as fucking flawed. We drink rich bitch because you are too blessed to be stressed over peasant mess. That is beneath you. Stop telling yourself you're broke. You are a pool of wealth. Money comes to you easily. You make that shit back times 2 as soon as you spend it. And I drink I'm the shit juice because I'm one of the realest motherfuckers that I know. And too many people hate me to hype me, so I'ma hype my damn self. And I sip.
And I sip. Just so much. But so these days, I saw a TikTok video about the top 5 male influencers to listen to, and Jordan Peterson's been in the news. Andrew Tate's been in the news. Jocko Willink, I think. David Scoggins, and somebody else, but all these opinions, everything going on, all these unpopular opinions, but really all these people are just trying to get everybody to accept responsibility and think critically. So I put together a list from the conspiracy theory days. Just started Tom MacDonald and AI, and just put together a list of topics that are being bandied about out there. Got a pretty big list of all the topics that are going on, and how science is maybe not noticeably absent, but to me they are noticeably absent. They're not speaking out on this. So science is settled on climate change, right? That's what we hear all the time. But where are the actual scientists, the level 0, level 1 scientists, as I talked about in my other videos? Why are they so apparently absent on these topics? If climate change is settled, why? Oh, that's another video. Hang on. So, kind of like doing this. So the global warming, just science is settled on the global warming. Consider this.
The greatest respect, ma'am. It's the greatest fraud that's been perpetrated on mankind this century. The best scenario vis-a-vis global warming is about 10 feet raising water. The worst scenario is about 100 feet. If the water on the planet is rise up 10 feet, that means the southern part of the United States is gone. England is gone. Most of Europe is gone. Most of Central America is gone. If that's the case, let's just take Florida, for example, which is one of the fastest growing beachfront condominiums on the planet. In the prospectus, when you invest, mess, there should be, in the footnotes, if global warming is for real and water rises 10 feet, this investment you made is fuck all. Not one single investment prospectus written this century has alluded to global warming. If it were really true, the banks wouldn't invest. The banks wouldn't finance. Not one motherfucking condominium. So the people that have the money, the banks of this world, know it's not going to happen.
That's just one example of how things don't add up. If global warming and the science behind global warming is settled, in reality, why are people still buying beachfront condos? Why is the Roe v. Wade, forget about what Roe v. Wade overturning actually means, just sending the things back to the states, but if you look at on my list, abortion, taboo topic. I hope I don't get banned. Or shut down. I'm just explaining my train of thought. So if it's illegal to harm an eagle egg or a turtle egg because they're endangered, are the eggs just not potential eagles and turtles? What's the probability of an eagle laying an egg and an elephant hatching out? So where's the science with the pronouns and actual biology, and where are the scientists coming out and saying that, I'm not talking morally, I'm talking scientifically, at the time of conception, is that not a potential human? What are the odds of two people conceiving a child and birthing anything but a child? Now, not the difference between morally and scientifically is a different topic for discussion. But where's the scientists saying that life begins at conception, and maybe not sentience or fully developed children, but the science should at least be clear, should be settled on the fact that a man and woman reproducing will reproduce statistically, probability-wise, statistically zero chance of reproducing anything but another human. So at that time, so the science is very quiet on that. And you could look at everything, from COVID to the FDA to cannabis, 9/11, NASA, everything going on with Elon Musk, how ridiculous everything that he is doing. Full self-driving cars, if you listen to Lex Fridman, they're so far away from having full self-driving cars, but Elon's out there pushing this. Or Neuralink, the reality behind Neuralink and what he says in Neuralink, and the fact that I saw something that said there were 9 people that started Neuralink. All but Elon were actual scientists, and of those 9, I think 5 of them left because they just couldn't get along with his vision, or didn't buy his nonsense that he was spewing, or SpaceX. And SpaceX, we'll get back to that, but whether it's cloning, abortion, genders, addiction, mental health, the election fraud, chemtrails, UFOs, Roswell, CERN, Big Pharma, suicide, veterans, child traffic, human trafficking, Epstein Island, the Titanic, the Fed, all of these things that are prominent conspiracy theories in one corner of the Twitter sphere or internet or interwebs or whatever, or another. There's all these discussions, but where is science speaking out scientifically about the reality of what's going on? And one of my favorite topics that I've grown into is the flat earth. And when I was at orientation for this for my new job, I went up to the headquarters in another state, and I was talking to a lot of people, and they seem everybody seems very willing to discuss their beliefs until they get to beliefs that, and it's normal, until you get to beliefs that you hold true. But what I'm trying to get people to think is why you hold the beliefs you do, and what if your beliefs are wrong? And it all feeds into my bigger theory of the world and the meaning of life, which we'll get to eventually. But flat Earth is a huge topic, and I regularly ask people who don't believe in flat Earth why they believe what they believe. It's because that's what they've been taught. But why do we hold our beliefs so close to us when it affects us in big picture, like so little? You talk about flat Earth, and I always say, if they came out with tomorrow, if scientists came out tomorrow and said, the Earth is really flat, we've been lying to you, most people would say, I don't care, I still have to get up and go to work, I still have to live my life, I still have to pay my bills. It doesn't affect people personally day to day, so why do they hold fast to the beliefs that they were taught growing up in school, when there's all sorts of debate on Twitter? And when I was working on my TikTok channel, trying to grow my page, that was to get to 1,000 people. One of my goals that I wanted to do was reach 1,000 people so I could go live and go on to these debates. And I quickly found out that it doesn't really matter what I believe. If you try to discuss these things with people who hold these beliefs so true, and it's something from Tim Urban, your identity, your ideas are not your identity, and the higher mind versus the primitive mind, and all gets into neuroplasticity that I've been recently watching videos on, some other enlightenment, and it's so fascinating, the human mind and the human brain. But why do we hold these beliefs so true? If you can show, for example, using the Pythagorean theorem, that there has to be a drop, and the calculated drop of the curvature of the Earth. There's calculators that do that. For every 100 miles, you're supposed to have a drop of 6,666 feet, or the Earth spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, but we can't feel it, and we don't have any instruments that can detect it. Ethan's a senior this year, and he's in astronomy class, and I'm asking him what they're learning in astronomy, and I keep saying, part of learning is more than just being told what to think. Just ask questions and regurgitate it, rather than just regurgitate the information. So, if somebody can tell me how you can feel sitting on a merry-go-round, a carousel, or the ride at fairs that the spins you really fast, and it's like 3 G's of force, and you're pressed against the wall, cyclotron, I don't know what it's called. How can you feel that? But if we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour on the Earth at the equator, and the Earth is revolving around the sun at like 66,000 miles an hour, and we're hurling through the galaxy in this elliptical pattern at 450,000 miles an hour, and we don't feel a thing. Gravity, I'm getting deep into the flat earth arguments, and you never hear anybody that, when you go into these groups that on Twitter that they're discussing this stuff, all they ever do is attack flat earthers, and no science is coming out and saying, yeah, we can't really detect the Earth. Neil deGrasse Tyson, there's a video clip of Michio Kaku and Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about gravity, and they're saying, we have no idea what gravity is, we just know the results of it. But flat earthers contend, all water always finds its level, and gravity can be explained with buoyancy and density. But where's the science, right? So scientists could easily step up and say, this is reality, this is the way it is. Forget that, flat earthers say that it's the firmament's in the Bible, it's in Genesis, and there's blue water, and going back to SpaceX, they got videos of SpaceX, what they claim is smacking into the firmament, or the moon landing, right? So somebody just said we're going back to the moon. Why have we not been back to the moon since we landed on the moon? And one of the NASA scientists said we destroyed that technology and we can't get it back. Yet we're going, now we're trying to discover Mars, and all these conspiracy theories, and the Great Awakening, and aliens and UFOs. So when I was in North Carolina, I was talking to somebody who was interested in UFOs, and they related a story to me that they had an encounter with, when they were younger, with UFO or alien, or he and his brother, and he wanted to come on the podcast. Maybe I'll get him on the podcast as I get moving up in this. But there's no scientists. All the the Tik Tok, and how do you take the Lex Fridman has David Fravor on, interviews him, and he was the naval aviator that taught at Top Gun, and he encountered the Tik Tok video, and he recounts why they call it a Tik Tok, and what he saw and what he didn't see, and how it reacted to him. All these things are, science can't explain them. We don't know what it is, and it's okay to, I think that's the biggest thing. It's okay to admit we don't know what we don't know. But somebody knows something. And if science is settled on all this stuff, then why don't they just come out and say, this is what the Tic Tac video was? This is why the Earth is round. This is why, flat Earth. This is why 9/11. This is the reality behind all this stuff. So, a responsibility to set the record straight whenever they have an opportunity to. And so I've been listening to a whole lot of different from TEDx talks to Jasmine's Garden to Jordan Peterson, just getting my mind thinking critically about things and trying to get other people to think critically. And one of the, try to wrap this up, an hour and a half, nobody's going to listen to it anyway. So the other day I have this Batman cowl. Put it on. I can't put it on. But I had this Batman cowl in my car the other day, and I had it for a while, and I just not regularly, sometimes I put it on the drive. I put it on at work a couple times, leaving work, and just to make people laugh. Like, the guys leave from work and see me with my Batman cowl, and they just start laughing. So I thought, well, why not make people laugh, even if it is at my expense? I don't care. So I had it in the car the other day, and Angela and I had to go to the store. So I told her, and she said, "Why is this in your car?" I said, "Well, I wear it when I drive sometimes." So she's chuckling, and she's, "No, you don't." So I put it on and drove down the street to Publix. And on the way there, she says, "If you think you're going into Publix wearing that thing with me, you're crazy." And I was getting out. I still had it on, and I was like, "No, put it in the car." So I left it in the car, and we started walking in. And as we were walking in, I said, that's accessorizing discrimination. Why can people wear their masks for COVID, 2 years after the COVID, whatever you believe COVID's going on, 2 years after the COVID, why can people still wear masks but I can't wear a cowl? Well, one of the funny things that I thought it was funny, when COVID first hit, everybody had started having a mask on. So I was going in, driving down the road, and I was going inside. It occurred to me, like, I was wearing my sunglasses, and I said to myself, jokingly, of course, a mask and sunglasses is how I used to dress when I was going in to rob a store. Now I have to wear a mask to even get into the store. Joking, I never robbed a store. But I thought it was funny. So I went in and started saying that it's discrimination against accessorizing. So as we're walking through Publix, we're back at the seafood counter, and she's looking around, and these two guys come up, and they're wearing kilts. One of them had their hair dyed purple, and the other one had their hair dyed green. And she turns around and says, "Look, they're wearing kilts." And I said, "Well, if they can wear kilts into the store, why can't I wear my cowl?" And so I wanted to get a picture of them. And I went to reach for my phone, and I didn't have my phone. So I'm freaking out, so I'm saying, "Ange, call my phone and, see if I left it at home and see if anybody picks up." So she calls my phone, and nobody's picking up. I said, "Well, call home and ask Ethan if he can see my phone or listen for it." So she called Ethan. He's looking around the house for it, and she says, "Okay, well, just keep an ear out for it." So she called my phone again, and it wasn't ringing. Nobody could find it. And so we were down continued shopping. So I said, okay, will you keep calling? I'll run out to the car and see if I dropped it, or see if I dropped it on the way in. So I ran out to the car and I found my phone. It fell between my seat and the console. So I grabbed it, and as I was coming back into the store, these two guys, the two guys in the kilts, were checking out and going to their car. So I thought, I have my phone now. So I went up to them. They were backing out of their parking spot, and I knocked on the window, and I said, excuse me, this may sound strange. And the driver said, oh, it won't sound strange to us. So I said, well, I have a podcast, about whatever it was, just Pondering Infinity, and I was wondering if I could get a picture, y'all. So they let me get a picture, and this is them. So they were all great guys, really nice, and not commenting, not judging on anything, but obviously homosexual. I don't care. So they were talking about, we love it, and he's like, he says, I said, well, I have a podcast, and I was wondering, would it be okay to show your picture and tell the story? And they're like, absolutely. And then he holds out his ring, and he's like, yeah, put your phone up to my ring. It's got all our contact information on there. Of course, my phone's jacked up, so it didn't pick up I guess he's got Ethan. So his phone has the oh my gosh, tangled up in the wires. So his ring has all his contact information on like a digital card, which was cool. But I'm like, it doesn't pick it up. So he's like, yeah, we're the look. You can find us at DirtyUnicorns.fun. I was like, what is that? So he's like, yeah, we make soaps. Or they're down in another Woodstock. I live in Canton, and they're down in Woodstock, and they make soaps and body gels and all this stuff. They're obviously very socially proactive, whatever their beliefs are, whatever they're doing. They have soaps that they donate a percentage to Planned Parenthood and all this other stuff. So I was like, well, that's cool. And so that, about being themselves. You're the only person that can be you. And so you should do it as best you can to yourself. So my hope is, talking to them, and they were excited about being on the podcast, and maybe go down there and talk to them a little bit, maybe have them on the podcast. That's kind of cool. Just wanting to talk to them and just open dialogue. We could more open dialogue and more understanding why other people believe what they believe, and see if we can just come together instead of growing apart. So it goes back to all the things that Tom MacDonald was saying. It should be uncontroversial, where he's got one line that says he doesn't understand how a heartbeat on Earth, I'm misquoting him, but how can there be life on Mars when a heartbeat's not life on Earth? And it just goes back to my whole point, where science, for as much as science is settled, it's really not unsettled. It's just politicized science, where we have a real opportunity to actually settle the science, and then discuss in a different vein morality or spirituality or different belief system, Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter, or anything that Tom MacDonald or Adam Calhoun or anybody in that type of music is the lyrics are talking to the bigger issues, but we're so consumed with our day-to-day lives that we forgot about how we've been manipulated. Again, my opinions. We've been manipulated, like Rand Paul said, by the government or propaganda. The U.S. government is the biggest purveyors of misinformation. We all, I think, at some level, we all recognize and understand that, but we just hold so true to our belief systems without asking why we believe what we believe. Why do we believe the Earth is whatever you want with flat Earth, or why do we believe that we destroyed the technology? Why haven't we been to the moon? And one common argument that I get from everybody that I try to have these dialogues with is that it's motive. Is that, why would the government hide that from us? Or why would they do this? Or why would they do that? Well, Steven Crowder, I think, is one of the guys. Oh, yeah, he was one of the guys that was the five leading in that TikTok video of who you should listen to. One of the things I remember from listening to him a while ago was that I think he said, don't ascribe motive. Don't try to figure out why people do what they do, because everybody does what they think is best for them. The choices they make, the decisions they make, everything's a choice, and every choice has consequences. So don't try to figure out, don't judge based on their actions, thinking that you understand their motivations. Like, nobody's lived my life, nobody has my experiences, and I don't have anybody else's experiences. So the decisions I make are wholly, I should be responsible for, as should everybody else. So don't try to figure out why they did this. Just accept that it's done and ask questions. Why do you believe what you believe? The government covering up flat Earth, or 9/11, or anything else that science could speak out on and unequivocally, scientifically put to rest, and then have that moral or ethical or personal debate afterwards. You can still choose to have an abortion if science says that's a human being from conception. It still comes down to your personal belief and your personal choices. So they shouldn't, I guess, intellectually versus emotionally be. You have to be intellectually honest and consistent with your thoughts and beliefs and behaviors, and apply it to every other aspect of your life. And that's really what I'm trying to promote, is critical thinking and intellectual honesty at a personal level. The same thing that Jordan Peterson or anybody, they have all these videos on TikTok about the genders and how there's, more than 2 genders, and whatever you believe on that. But if science would come out and say, with the exception of some chromosomal anomalies, right, there's male and female. But how do we go from that, and science is quiet on that, to I forget her name, the swimmer that, transgender swimmer that just figuratively beat the crap out of all those women and broke all those records because it's a man, biological man, competing in women's sports. It's, we can settle the science on the biology and have a later discussion on, is it okay for biological men to compete in women's sports? How come you never see it the other way? How come you never see women identifying as men competing against men in men's sports? Because they'll get killed, because there's biological differences between men and women. That's science. That should be indisputable, not up for discussion. But it's not. And it, so trying to get people to take a step back and detach their identity from their ideas. And Tim Urban was talking about the higher mind versus the primitive mind, and that's one of fascinating, idea labs and echo chambers. And I think I should look for that video. But one of the things I'm trying to get people to think about is separating their ideas from their identity and having healthy discussions and healthy debate. And one of the values of this company that I work for, they call it intellectual honesty. And I had recently sent an email to one of the guys that's in they have a care team, and they try to foster personal improvement religiously, spiritually, personally. And I sent him an email about and what I'm trying to do is go deeper into their mission, vision, values. Passion's one of the big ones, but intellectual honesty, I sent an email to him and highlighted, let me find the email. So I sent him an email and saying that I was just summarizing some thoughts of my he did a virtual session about one of the mission, vision, and values, and how people tend to weaponize, and he gave examples of how he weaponized it. So I sent him an email saying, I don't know if I want to read it. I guess I could read it. Thanks for the sermon. He's also a pastor. So I said, thanks for the sermon today. Great stuff. Since my welcome week, I've been thinking deeply about the MVV. As you know, there are quite a few changes going down here in where I work, and that require tremendous adaptability on both the personal and professional level. One concept I was working on was centered around healthy conflict. I believe there are 4 key elements. So, Angela came in. I had to do something. The one concept I've been developing is centered around healthy conflict. I believe there are 4 key elements necessary to truly engage in it. Those are belief, open-mindedness, intellectual honesty, and most importantly, humility. My obscure sense of humor said, to quote one of my top 10 movies, The Princess Bride, "Let me explain, no, there's too much, let me sum up." Princess Bride on the shelf. Right there. So I said, belief. One must have belief in something to engage. However, it's the extent to which one believes that determines the magnitude of the conflict. Open-mindedness. Let's see, in my podcast, Pondering Infinity, shameless plug, I have a clip of someone explaining the concept of separating our ideas from our identity. We must enter into healthy conflict, aka debate, with the willingness to truly consider others' ideas on their merits. Intellectual honesty, we must apply our beliefs, logic, feelings, and rationale consistently. Unfortunately, most human beings, this is far easier said than done, especially in today's society. And humility, in my opinion, this is the most essential and yet the most difficult of all. When we change our minds, we are required to swallow our pride and admit we were wrong. Oh, this is another. Hang on, I got a clip. So I found that other clip. So going along with humility. Well, let me finish the email. So I say healthy conflict begets enlightenment with personal and professional growth. Anyway, I've gone too long. I'd like to talk to you more on this. P.S. If you only watch one of my podcasts, I highly recommend episode 10. Is my favorite. So I had to help Angela. I gotta end this because I got stuff I need to do around the house. So I sent that email, and it one of the underlying reasons I sent it was there's a lot of stuff at work. One of the things that got me reinvigorated about the podcast was they do a podcast at work, and they talk to people that have been there, and this person in charge of the care group runs this podcast, and so it's about finding what makes each individual unique and what they bring to the table, and so there's one podcast where the CFO tells the story of how he came to the company, and long story short, he was working for his father's accounting firm and approached the owner of the company, and they started talking about who does your W-2s, and the owner says, what are you talking about? And he says, well, you pay your employees, right? He says, yeah. And he says, well, how do you pay them? And he says when he thinks about it, he just whips out his checkbook and just writes a check to people. I mean, it's a fascinating backstory of this company, and I hope soon I'll get permission to go deeper into it. Not that I've asked, but I guess I need to do that. But he says, what do you mean? So you 1099 them? He says, yeah, 1099. He says, wait a second. Do you tell them what time to show up? And he says, yeah. And he says, do you tell them what to do? And he says, yeah. He says, well, you don't have contractors. You have employees, and you need to send them a W-2. So it's just illustrating we don't know what we don't know. And that's the one of the underlying premises about humility is admitting. When we admit we don't know what we don't know, you're opening yourself up to being wrong. and it's okay to admit you don't know what you don't know. So I found this other clip, and this pretty much sums up where I'm headed on future episodes.
It's impossible to learn that which you think you already know. That's Epictetus describing, I think, what ego does to us. If you think you already know something, you're prevented from learning. If you think you know, you won't ask questions. If you think you know, you can't get corrected. So actually, all knowledge, all improvement comes from a place of humility. Socrates is considered wise not because of what he knew, but because of what he knew he didn't know. And the Socratic method is what? It's the asking of questions. So certainty statements are the antithesis of knowledge. Questions, openness, curiosity is the way to wisdom.
So it just underscores a lot of the last couple of months of my journey to where I am now, asking a lot of questions, because nobody has my experience except me. Nobody has your experiences except you. Nobody has the CFO's experiences except him. No one has the CEO's experiences against him. He didn't know that he didn't know. So that clip, Socrates was wise not because of what he knew, but what he knew he didn't know. But it goes beyond that. It's if we, there's the knowledge matrix, I think. Known knowns, unknown knowns, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns. And so trying to get people to stop, not necessarily question their beliefs, but when it's beliefs you formed from, say, for work, as an example. And one of the great things about this company is that they had such explosive growth, and there's not really a whole lot of, through no fault of anybody's, there's not really a whole lot of processes in place because they didn't know. Everybody knows you need a financial department in business, and he was the subject matter expert. They brought in the marketing guy who was a subject matter expert in marketing. Everybody knows businesses need marketing. They brought in an IT guy. Everybody knows that businesses need IT. They have developments. They have subject matter experts everywhere. But one area that they're lacking, and I don't mean to sound negative, but they're lacking in is processes and operationally, and because they grew so quickly, they moved people into positions that they haven't had any experiences in, and it's a testament to, in my opinion, a testament to the CEO and the loyalty he feels from his employees, that he can move people into positions and learn on the job. But at some point, it becomes very difficult for those people that haven't had experiences in other areas to implement changes because they don't know what they don't know. And not without going specifically into it, there's a lot of issues going on with some of the systems we have for implementing an ERP system that, by all accounts, the company that implemented it. No, I'm not going to do that. People don't know what they don't know. And so my life experiences, my path to where I am right now, was an accumulation of all the choices I've made up to in my life, good and bad, and every choice landed me here to where I am right now. with my experience and my knowledge, and not that I'm any better than anybody else, but there's different ways of doing things that people may not have had an opportunity to experience. So admitting that we don't know what we don't know is very difficult for a lot of people, but it all comes down to beliefs. So challenging your beliefs at, spiritual level or religious level, you should look at that differently than challenging your beliefs on a professional level or an educational level, because what you've developed. Oh, I should get that clip too. Hang on. 2 hours. I need to really wrap this up. I keep saying that, but I promise this is going to be the last video that I show. So it's a video that just that I feel it illustrates why we should question why we believe things, at every level, but specifically to things that don't really affect you to your core. So things you learn at work, or things beliefs you hold in society or education. But this is the video.
Despite what you might be thinking, these two circles are not equal. I repeat, these two circles are not equal. One is in fact larger than the other. What I need you to do is determine which one that is. So, please raise your hand if you believe the blue circle is larger than the red. Alright. Please raise your hand if you believe the red circle is larger than the blue. Alright, very good. Now, before I said anything about these two circles, what was your first instinct? Equal, right? Because they look equal. And the reason why they look equal is because, in fact, they are equal. These two circles are identical. Yet I got just about every one of you to raise your hand and say that they're not. So what did we learn? That you can be manipulated like that to believe in something that goes against your natural instinct. Just imagine as a child you're taught that the blue circle is larger than the red. If you say it enough times, you convince yourself that's the truth. If you're told the lie enough times, it becomes part of your reality. And if enough people are taught that lie, that the blue circle is larger than the red, well, now it becomes part of the culture. And if that culture then passes that misinformation along to the next generation, well, now it becomes tradition. And what we have to remember is that just because we have a tradition doesn't mean it's morally acceptable. Tradition and morality are not always the same. I mean, can you think of any traditions that we once had in the United States of America that we no longer have? That today we think back and that was immoral? Slavery, right? Less than 200 years ago. And that was a tradition. So the traditions we have today doesn't necessarily mean they're morally acceptable. And as we evolve as a culture, so do our traditions. Now, The Matrix is a story. It's a story. When told enough times to enough people, it becomes part of that culture. It becomes the tradition. And this story is being told over and over every day.
It's interesting that he went to the Matrix. I have a theory on the Matrix, but I won't go into it now. But just that little graphic, trust your instincts. If something doesn't feel right inside you, then question why you think it doesn't feel right. And you can apply this to everything from flat earth to COVID to anything going on in society, racism, defund the police, anything. Not necessarily trying to start controversy. I'm trying to get people just to sit back and detach their ideas from their identity and discuss these issues like Tom MacDonald, and question why you believe what you believe and what if you're wrong, and look at it from that standpoint and allow yourself to be okay with asking questions and not knowing you don't know what you don't know, accepting that that's okay as being a human. There's so much more I want to unpack, but it's already been 2 hours and 10 minutes, and so I do need to do some stuff around here. But I hope this is the first of many more podcasts, and hopefully have people on that we could discuss this with. It's a lot easier to discuss ideas when you have somebody to discuss them with and debate and challenge me. I love my belief systems to be challenged because I'm always changing my mind. I'm always trying to grow and learn. And, you know, I think flat Earth, as much as people don't want to talk about it or have opinions about it, just flat Earth is one of those things that I just can't find any scientists to come out and say definitively one way or the other. Like, to settle the science on flat Earth. It should be, you would think, it should be very easy for someone to do. All these scientists that are doing all these experiments, psychological experiments. I mean, psychology is just another branch that's fascinating. Brain development, neuroplasticity, that I've been watching these TED Talks on. Mind control and MK Ultra. I mean, however you want to look at it, but challenge your beliefs and say, what if somebody else's belief is possible? How would that look in society? And that's, you know, I want to wrap it up on that. And it's one of the pleas I have is to Richard Simmons. Oh, that's the other thing I went back and I saw something, looked at the Richard Simmons thing, and I found let me see this. I hope it's showing on the screen, but this was page 6. I was looking for the Richard Simmons thing. So on the 24th he came out and he said, "Thank you everyone for your kindness and love," on his Facebook page. So he's got a Facebook page. So there's only 409,000 followers, when, you know, nothing against anybody else. You know, Jasmine has like 2.5 million, and, you know, he's not on Tik Tok, but how impactful could Richard Simmons be if he came out and spoke up against childhood obesity, and spoke up against mental illness, and spoke up against a lot of the stuff that Tom MacDonald is talking about? Some things that should be uncontroversial at a human level. I hope that showed. Uncontroversial at a human level. So one of my pleas would be to Richard Simmons is, please come back and speak up. Nobody's going to judge you. I mean, if there weren't judgment when you were most popular, people were judging you left and right, and you persevered and you pushed through, and it wore down you emotionally and mentally and you know, even physically. But nobody's going to judge you for coming back and making a difference in the world. It's not too late. I hope he would, you know, versus, like I said before, what would happen if Richard Simmons were around for the last 8 years, and Caitlyn Jenner and the Kardashians, you know, nothing against them, but how differently would the world be if Richard Simmons were around for 8 years, or if he came back today and just started speaking on these things? If science isn't going to settle it, and that's, you know, the neuroplasticity and getting into depression, and one of them was talking about research scientists were talking about how in the days where we have so many depression drugs and pharmaceuticals, how do we still have rampant depression around the world? Like they say it's a topic for another podcast. But I'm going to leave my plea here. One of many is, Richard Simmons, please come back and help change the world and help people understand that it's okay to admit you don't know what you don't know. And well, I don't know. I feel like I'm going in circles now, so I'm going to end this. I appreciate if you made it this far. 2 hours is a big ask, but infinity's a big place, and if we're going to ponder it, we got to start somewhere. So hopefully you'll join me on this journey and come back again. Thanks a lot. Bye now.